Welcome back to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We'll be right back with today's guest, but first, let's hear from our podcast sponsors. We want to thank Final Forms for their support of the Educational AD Podcast. Final Forms is the industry leader in registration, but you got to know this. Final Forms is more than just registration. Final Forms is a team, it's technology, and it's a service that provide schools with compliance, communication, and risk management solutions. Final Forms can help your stakeholders with things like mobile accessibility, reminders for parents about policies, about physicals, about all the athletic forms that are involved, can help with team communication, with attendance, and even certification management for coaches. For ADs, it can help with eligibility, with rosters, and all the reports that come across your desk. And it does this with secure language translation and ADA compliance. You know, it's time for you to talk with a team that's walked in your shoes to take the next steps and find out what Final Forms can do for you and your athletic department. Go to finalforms.com/Jake. That's finalforms.com/Jake and find out exactly what Final Forms can do for you. We also want to thank Violet Defense for their support. Violet Defense is dedicated to protecting our world from germs by bringing the power of UV disinfection to everyday spaces. Their patented technology enables them to harness the power of the sun to incorporate ultraviolet light into products and environments like never before. Whether you're ready to implement existing products, or if you'd like to explore researching and developing a custom deployment of their technology for your school, Violet Defense has the solutions and the experience you need. Go to violetdefense.com right now for more information about their great products. We also want to thank Sideline Interactive. You know, it's becoming harder and harder to fund an athletic department, but Sideline Interactive's indoor scoring tables and video boards can generate $10,000 or more every year, while also creating excitement at the gym and the ultimate game day experience for your athletes. Go to sidelineinteractive.com or call 832-786-0302 to schedule a live web demo and see their tables and boards in action. You can also email them at sales@sidelineinteractive.com for more information. That's sales@sidelineinteractive.com and find out exactly what their fantastic products can do for you. We also want to thank Wall of Fame by Vital Signs. You know, they're on a mission to bring your school's legacy to life. They have a variety of interactive touchscreen video consoles, along with an extensive library of templates to make it easier than ever to recognize the athletic achievements of your students, both past and present. For ideas on how to showcase your school's diverse history, along with your proudest moments, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com. Or learn more and get started with your digital Wall of Fame tribute. Call them at 614-981-3589, or you can email them at sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. That's sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. We also want to thank Huddle. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. Over 180,000 teams, including some of the best in the world, use Huddle to elevate the performance of their teams using analytics and video. Huddle's the complete performance platform. They have online tools, mobile and desktop apps, smart cameras like the Huddle Focus. Of course, there's analytics and a whole lot more. Huddle is also built for every level of play, from club and youth teams all the way through high schools and colleges. And the pros even use Huddle to help their teams play at the highest level. You're in pretty good company with over 6 million users, including your student athletes, a lot of their parents, and the coaches of the teams you're trying to get to recruit your kids. If you want to find out more about what Huddle can do for you and your school and how your school can become a Huddle school, go to huddle.com and talk to their professionals. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. We also want to thank Hometown Ticketing, the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. You can find out more about what Hometown Ticketing can do for you and your school by going to hometownticketing.com and talk to their professionals. Hometown Ticketing, simple and easy online ticketing. And we also want to thank Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack for sponsoring the Athletic Director Toolbox segment of the podcast. Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack are a quick, easy, and affordable way for you to collect comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve your entire athletic program. Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack also connects you with the 95% of the parents and the student athletes who really love your program. And it gives them a voice to help demonstrate the importance that a positive athletic experience has for them. Go to athleticsurveys.com and check out their testimonials, and then give them a call at 1-800-738-6466, or you can email them at info@athleticsurveys.com to get started. If you've never used a survey to take the pulse of your parents or your student athletes, you're really missing out. Talk to the folks at Athletic Surveys by LifeTrack and let them show you how to take your athletic program from good to great. Hey, welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Educational AD Podcast. We're going to stay right in Florida today, and we're going to be visiting with Sean Flynn. Sean is the president of sports and education for Sure People. They're out of Miami, Florida. He's going to tell us a little bit more about Sure People and what it does. But Sean Flynn, welcome to the podcast.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having the time, and it's good to get some, get a couple of Florida people on here. So it's always
absolutely okay.
Sunshine State flavor down here. I love it.
For our listeners, Sean and I connected, through LinkedIn. I saw, his, some posts about his company, and it was very intriguing as a longtime coach and athletic director. He's going to get into that later on, but Sean, we always like to let our listeners have a chance to get to know our guests. So give us that 5-minute bio. Where were you born? Where'd you grow up and go to school, and kind of how your path has led you to your position now with Sure People.
Yeah, great. Appreciate that. Thanks. Born and raised in St. Louis, Missouri. Left there to go to undergraduate school and play soccer at St. Mary's University. It's in San Antonio, Texas. So spent my 4 years there, an undergrad program playing soccer. Stayed in San Antonio for a little bit after that. Had a degree in accounting and worked at a company called HEB. So if you got some folks on here from Texas, I'm sure they're familiar with HEB. They've got about 99% of the market share for groceries in that part of the world. Realized that accounting wasn't for me quickly, like almost immediately. And I had to go, find my right path, my right journey, and did a lot of soul searching and realized, I had to follow my passion, which was really sports. And how would I do that? I didn't know from being an accountant for a grocery company. So did as much as I could back in the day before internet in terms of how do I get on a path that makes more sense for me and aligns with my passions and likes. But eventually figured out, I need to go back to school probably. So did some research and really unveiled that there's a couple different programs back in the day, and this is mid-90s, that really focused on sports management and sports administration. Now it's prevalent. It's on every campus and across the country, but in the mid-90s it wasn't as prevalent. So identified a school down here in South Florida called St. Thomas University that actually was the first graduate level program for sports management in the country. Had been doing it for a while, had a great list of alums that have kind of gone through the program and established themselves. So there was a track record. So gave up my accounting job, went back to school, moved to Miami, and was on my path, which I've been on now for, I guess we're going on almost 28 years. It was 2022. Wow. 28 years, I think. And, that was it. So I graduated from there with a master's degree in sports administration and really focused at that point kind of on the business side and marketing and sales and communications and event management and things like that. So spent some time with the USL, which is the soccer league. It's if you look at the structure of US soccer, the MLS is at the top. The USL has Division II and kind of lower divisions, really well established. This was the beginning of that back in the late 90s. But served as director of marketing and sales there for 3 or 4 years. That's located in Tampa, Florida. Stayed in Tampa, hooked up with the Tampa Bay Lightning and the arena there. Spent about 5 years working in the NHL with Tampa Bay Lightning and on the arena side and the event side. Came down to South Florida in 2003 with then Florida Marlins, now Miami Marlins, and was lucky enough to win a World Series in my first year there. Spent 13 years in Major League Baseball with the Marlins. And if anybody's familiar with the ups and downs of the Marlins, it was a roller coaster ride from that World Series to kind of down and had a couple up years. We opened a new building. We rebranded from Florida Marlins to Miami Marlins with a whole new identity platform. So that was an interesting ride. A lot of great experiences. And then after that, went back to, I'm a soccer player. I think I mentioned earlier that I did play soccer collegiately and a little bit after. Stayed in South Florida, stayed in Miami as the CEO of Miami FC, which is now currently playing in the USL where I started back in the 90s. So spent about 4 years there, overseeing all operations in terms of team operations and the business side. Really loved it, obviously, as a soccer player, having a passion for the sport, really aligned with what I was really looking to do and at that point in my life and career. And then this kind of the Sure athlete, which now we're Sure people, had always been percolating. A dear friend of mine, a Chicago-based entrepreneur by the name of Nico Draculis, was working on a project that he called me about, when I was with Marlon, saying, hey, I've got this new thing I'm on. It's called Sure People. It's a psychometric and behavioral analytics platform. And we're going to do this and all this and change the world. I'm like, wow, okay. Think about that. Let's take it to sports when the time is right. So he went off and started Sure People, and I jumped over to take on running Sure Athlete, which is now Sure People Sports, a little over 18 months, 2 years ago. So that's where I'm at currently. So I'll put a pin in it because I know we're going to get into all that, but I hope that wasn't that long-winded journey wasn't too detail oriented, but I had to add some context to all this. So.
No, as regular listeners know, I always say this, but it's always true. I love hearing the stories and those, twists and turns, fortuitous things that, lead to this job and this path rather than another. We're going to talk about a couple, but I'm intrigued about, going from or coming into, for you coming in and working with the Florida Marlins and the whole rebranding. And again, I've been in Florida for the last 20 years, so I'm not a huge baseball fan, but certainly follow the local team. And it has been kind of an up and down experience, for Marlins fans. Maybe give us a snapshot of, some of the things that you did with the Marlins and maybe how this one worked out great, or maybe this one didn't work out. You have any distinct memories of your time with the Marlins?
Yeah. So I pride myself on my creative juices and my outside of the box thinking. Lean more towards risk than some people probably would want, especially Major League Baseball, but all with the goal of getting people into the game, right? Like, Marlins have notoriously had a attendance problem, and we started out playing in a football stadium with no roof in Florida in the summer, which wasn't ideal. So we had to get aggressive and get creative in terms of way to get people in the park. So one of the good things we created was called the Super Saturday series. That's where we introduced a concert series and fireworks and all these giveaways. It really kind of put as many enhancements in place to get people to kind of come out, whether you're a baseball fan or to come for the music or the fireworks or the giveaways, or we just packed it all in on Saturdays. It really had a positive effect and increased our, the first year we did it, we increased our Saturday attendance by 45% or something like that, and continued to grow from there, which was a pretty successful program. Again, just finding compelling ways to get people engaged with our brand and consume our brand live. So that worked out. One of the things that actually didn't work out, but kind of worked out, when we celebrated our 10th anniversary we had the bright idea to get 10,000 dimes and paint them teal and put our little teal logo on them. So we had a nice launch event to do that at a little elementary school down on South Beach. And I had all the kids involved and our mascot and maybe some of our players. Great PR hit, announcing our 10th anniversary. And if people found these dimes, they could redeem them for a ticket. So we were going to circulate them. Well, on my way back to the office, at the stadium, which is now Hard Rock Stadium, the old stadium we played in, probably maybe a 30-minute drive. I get a call on my cell as I'm approaching the building. Our receptionist says, "Hey, Sean, there's a Secret Service agent looking for you." And I'm like, "Oh, wow, okay. Is he still there?" She goes, "Oh, yeah, he's in your office." I'm like, oh, okay. First of all, thanks for the heads up in case I need to get out of here. That's good looking out. Second of all, I wonder what he wants, but I'll be there in 10 minutes. So I walk in, the guy he had a clipping of the newspaper, whatever it was he had. He goes, are you guys painting money? I'm like, well, yeah, we painted 10,000 dimes teal and we're distributing them throughout the community. They can be redeemed for free tickets. He goes, "Oh, okay. Well, we got a call. The Secret Service is part of the Treasury Department, and somebody found out that we're painting dimes and sent a tip into the Treasury Department to turn us in for defacing money." He goes, "Can I just get one of them? It's not that big a deal, but I've been called and they sent me out here to have a conversation. Can I just have one of them to take back and just show them that this is not a massive money defacing project?" So it was good. It actually turned out we had a conversation. His son was an aspiring sports management administrator, and so we kind of had a conversation about the industry and how to get into it. And we ended up winning the World Series, and he was moved to the presidential detail. So he's actually at the White House when we went to visit President Bush after winning the World Series. So kind of funny. So
boy, that was a roller coaster ride, I'm sure. The Secret Service is waiting for you, and then it turns out winning the World Series. Very cool stuff. For our listeners, we're visiting with Sean Flynn. He's the president of sports and education for Sure People out of Miami. We're going to find out more about Sure People, but let's take a quick break and hear from one of our sponsors. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We want to thank Final Forms for their support of the podcast. Final Forms is the industry leader in athletic registration, but they're more than just forms and registration. Final Forms is a team, it's technology, and it's a service that provides schools with compliance, communication, and even risk management solutions. Final Forms can help your stakeholders with mobile accessibility, with reminders for your parents about policies, about physicals, about all the forms that go with athletics, can help with team communication, attendance, and even certification management for your coaches. For athletic directors, Final Forms can help with eligibility, with rosters, and all the reports that come across your desk. Plus, it does this with secure language translation and ADA compliance. It's time for you to talk with a team that's walked in your shoes. To take the next steps and find out what Final Forms can do for you, go to finalforms.com/Jake. That's finalforms.com/Jake to find out exactly what Final Forms can do for you. Welcome back, everyone. We're visiting with Sean Flynn, the president of Sports and Education for Sure People out of Miami, Florida. Sean, you certainly have had a wide variety of background experiences in athletics, but talk a little bit about Sure People, just basically what it is. And I'm telling our listeners, we're going to take a much deeper dive into it later in the show, but how'd you end up at Sure People, and what do they do? Why should an AD be interested?
Yeah, it goes back to, I mentioned, my dear friend and longtime friend, Nico Draculis out of Chicago. As an entrepreneur, he'd been working on many different projects, and some were some software programs and that were helping us on the marketing side. But while I was still with the Marlins, he called me up and said, "Listen, I found this thing that uses data to help relationships, help put people in the best position to succeed, the right environments to succeed, all based on this data. And I'm like, okay, wow, that sounds cool. He goes, yeah, I'm going to take it to businesses and I'm going to start working with folks and help them reduce turnover, increase productivity, and really start to create high performing cultures and high performing individuals. Like, wow, okay, that sounds pretty cool. If you can do that, I'd love to think about how we can bring that to sport, right? The world of athletics, whether it's professional sports, intercollegiate athletics, high school sports, Olympic sports, whatever it may be. I think there's an opportunity. Sports is being more closely aligned with data analytics and using numbers and intelligent-based decisions. Most of that's physiological. Not a lot's going on above the neck. So, I think there's an opportunity. And, when Nico went out and did and proved what this thing can do and what he said it could do, and had some success with the likes of Boston Children's Hospital and Johns Hopkins Medicine and Comcast Media and iRobot. We had multiple conversations, but we finally said, listen, you've proven this. I think it's time to take this over to sport. I'm ready to make the jump over and kind of lead this effort and bring it to my world and start to have those conversations and introduce this. And really the ultimate goal here, whether it's working with a hospital or working with a media company or working with a team, is to help people and help organizations better themselves individually or better themselves organizationally or in departments, or to really improve the folks' lives and organization success. And that the bottom line, and that's the path we're on.
Yeah. Again, when you and I were first talking, I had a chance to, you took me through your website and you took me through some of the really cool things about it. And we are going to take that deeper dive into it. But let's take another quick break, hear from one of our sponsors. Once again, we're visiting with Sean Flynn. He's the president of Sports and Education for Sure People. We'll be back with some more. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We also want to thank Huddle for their support of the Educational AD Podcast. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. Over 180,000 teams, including some of the best in the world, use Huddle to elevate the performance of their athletes using video and analytics. Huddle is the complete performance platform. They have online tools, mobile and desktop apps, smart cameras like the Huddle Focus. Of course, there's analytics and a whole lot more. Huddle is also built for every level of play, from club and youth teams all the way through high school and college programs. And even the pros are using Huddle to help their athletes perform at the highest level. You're in pretty good company with over 6 million users, including your student athletes, a lot of their parents, and the coaches of the college and university teams you're trying to get to recruit your kids. If you want to find out more about what Huddle can do for you and how your school can become a Huddle school, go to huddle.com and talk to their professionals. Remember, at Huddle, we power sports. Welcome back, everyone. We're visiting with Sean Flynn from Sure People. Sean, before we get into that deep dive that I keep teasing our listeners about, we always ask our guests about the mentors that they've had in their lives. None of us get where we're at on our own. So who are some of the people that helped you along the way?
Yeah, I think there's probably three that kind of stand out, and I break it down, one kind of in the middle school range, one in kind of a high school range, and then one actually when I was working as an accountant. So kind of starting from the beginning and going through chronologically. The first was a teacher. I went to Our Lady of Good Counsel, a Catholic school in St. Louis, and the disciplinarians in the 70s and 80s were probably well renowned in those Catholic school systems. But there was a teacher by the name of Miss Mayhew, and she was a disciplinarian, but did it in a way with respect and understanding that she valued what was going on with her students. And I was one who was pretty headstrong, wanted to do things my way, really wasn't open to listening to, folks from in a position of authority. She recognized that, found a way to kind of get me in line and channel and funnel my, energies and what I wanted to do, with respect. I mean, there was others who tried it without respect and, more of a overbearing and, kind of demanding manner. She was, again, a disciplinarian, but at the same time, with a way that kind of aligned with, my method of operation, which is a lot of what we're doing today with Sure People. So, I remember her distinctly, kind of guiding me and getting me, stop me from kind of veering down the wrong path and bringing me in with this direct, approach. Like, Sean, no, here's what you're doing wrong, dude. here's what you need to be doing, and here's what you need to think about what you need to be doing. You figure it out, but this isn't the right way. And, I'm not going to allow that to happen in here. And I think that you've got enough talent and there's enough, you've got enough attributes here to really focus and achieve a lot of things that you want to achieve. So it really helped, point me in the right direction, and let me use my own abilities to kind of craft that, but was there as a guardrail if I started to get off track. So really important in early development is, I said middle school, I think she was, around the 7th and 8th grade time period. So I really respected the way she approached, at least her interactions with me, right? At that developmental age, which I guess was at 13 years old, 14 years old. So really impactful. And I've carried that through. And then on to high school, this guy by the name of Mr. Snell, or Coach Snell, is the track coach. I ran the 100 and 200. Again, wanted to do things my way. I didn't want to follow the plan, in terms of training and preparing. And, I figured, well, 100 and 200, I'm just going to go out and line it up. I don't, but you do need to prepare and train as with any sport. Again, his approach was similar to Miss Mayhew's, that, Sean, okay, I got it. You can do your own thing, but let's figure out, some parameters to kind of guide you within, right? Let's let you craft your own path, but let me help you do that. I'm going to work with you. I'm not going to force you into this, this plan, because I see that we're not going to put you in a circle. We're not going to force you into this square. So let's figure out a way to make this work together. I'll work with you. I'm not going to fight you on it. We're others, and I'm sure any of us that were back, playing sports around that time, or, coaches, my way or the highway, that certainly wasn't going to work with me. I wasn't going to run through the brick wall because somebody told me to run through the brick wall. I'm like, well, why am I going to run through the brick wall? What's the goal of that and why? So Mr. Snell, again, I related to what I'm working on now. He figured out, he had a great understanding of, his method of operation and those around him. And individually, he worked with the two different sets of characteristics and formed a connection, a relationship, and a bond. So really found that to be different from the experiences I had playing in other sports and other coaches at that time. And it really grateful that I had that time and to spend with him, and the way he handled and went about kind of coaching and guiding and developing and teaching. So powerful way to go about it. Really made an impact, at least for me, and others I spoke to. I know that he's made an impact, because a side story to that, if you watch a show called Ozark on Netflix, are you familiar with that?
Oh yeah.
The drug dealer's family, what their name is? Snell.
Yeah, but it escapes me now.
It's Snell.
No,
and when Ozark first came, the guy went to high school with me. He was a couple of years ahead of me, but when Ozark first came out, I recognized all of these names. Snell was one of them. There's a bunch of references. We're from St. Louis. It's in the Ozark. So the guy from Ozark went to high school. He ran track for Coach Snell, and he used his name in Ozark. So he obviously made an impact on this kid because he's got to be using him in his show. So Mr. Snell, who passed away last year, rest his soul, has made a lot of has had an impact on a lot of people. And then the third was a manager of mine when I was an accountant who he knew I was miserable. He knew that I wasn't meant to be an accountant, although functionally, technically, it came easy to me. It just wasn't what I wanted to do. And as opposed to kind of just again, do your work, get it done. Here's your reports, get all this done. We knew that was the underlying. Yes, of course, I need to do that. But Sean, listen, let's talk about where do you want to go? What do you want to do? If this isn't the path you're on, you have the ability to do this and you have the skill set to do it, but it doesn't seem to be clicking. Let's have a conversation about where you're going to go. What do you want to do? There's a path for you here. There's a clear pathway for you here to succeed, have a great career, with this organization and beyond with others. But it doesn't seem to be working out. And to have that open and honest conversation about that, and kind of, he actually worked there. He was older than I was the manager or supervisor, and he actually had worked there for 10 or 15 years before I arrived as a new kid out of college. We had that conversation, and he said, listen, although I'm going into this in whatever year I'm in, 15 or whatever it is, he goes, I'm thinking about transition, making a transition myself. I want to go back and be a professor. I may, go back at my PhD and teach at the collegiate level. So I hear you. Let's kind of talk this through. So I respected that. Others, I don't know if would have been open to have, that conversation with one of their employees or folks on their staff to really have an open and honest dialogue about, where do you want to go? What are you doing with yourself? I mean, we're once you figure out what aligns with where you have a passion for and what you want to do. So really respected him for that, and always remember that and carry. So all three of those I kind of carry through. Again, when I think about what I'm doing today with Sure People, all that aligns with it, right? It's really understanding people, understanding yourself, understanding others, and putting them in the best position to kind of succeed and develop and really foster. So as I think back and when we talked about those mentors, just kind of now it's all clicking, right? It kind of, they all tie back in. So it makes sense that I'm working on a project kind of aligns with some of the positive experiences I've had.
It amazes me, but it really doesn't amaze me how many times people go back and talk about teachers they had, or particularly coaches that had that impact. You don't realize at the time, and sometimes you do, but now you take those lessons out with the people that you work with, and you don't realize it, they don't realize it, but you're mentoring them as well. Really appreciate you sharing that stuff. For our listeners, we've been visiting with Sean Flynn. He's the president of sports and education for Sure People out of Miami. And when we come back, we're going to take that deep dive into what Sure People is, what it does, and why you as an athletic director, as a coach, as a leader, should think about getting in touch with Sean and finding out how it can impact your program. So please stay with us. We'll be right back. This is the Educational AD Podcast. We also want to thank Sideline Interactive for their support. It's becoming harder and harder to fund an athletic department these days, but Sideline Interactive's indoor scoring tables and video boards can generate $10,000 or more every year while creating excitement in the gym and the ultimate game day experience for your athletes. Go to sidelineinteractive.com or call 832-786-0302 to schedule a live web demo and see their tables and boards in action. You can also email them at sales@sidelineinteractive.com for more information. That's sales@sidelineinteractive.com and find out exactly what these fantastic products can do for you. Hey, welcome back, everyone. We're visiting with Sean Flynn from Sure People. Sean, when we connected, I think it's probably about a month ago, you did a great job of explaining to, let's say me, a cynical athletic director, on exactly what Sure People is, what's involved, and how it can impact, student athletes and coaches and ADs. So I'm going to give you a chance to take that deep dive. For our listeners, you're not going to have the benefit of the visual right now. The episode will go up on YouTube in a while, but Sean, tell that cynical AD that might be listening, why Sure People is something they really need to check out.
Yeah, I mean, the bottom line, well, in short summary, it's a psychometric and behavioral analytics platform, but it really helps, with three things. One, helps individuals understand themselves, right, and go on this roadmap to self-awareness and self-mastery. But almost more importantly, it helps with relationships and helps with connectivity and helps with communication, right? Just it gives you the opportunity to maybe have a breakthrough with, whether it's a staff member, a coach, a student athlete that you've had an impasse with, or somebody's new, they just stepped into on the campus or into an organization on the team, and you haven't had time to really figure them out. This helps you immediately do that, right? By using this data and some of the tools that we have that we'll talk about. And then thirdly, it kind of helps you, the collective, whether that's a staff, an administrative staff or a coaching staff or a roster. It helps, build that culture and that chemistry that helps, help create kind of this high performing unit, all based on this data and understanding yourself and those around you. So I'll share my screen. I know some folks are listening with audio, but once they can get on YouTube and this is up, they'll be able to kind of check out what this platform looks like. But I'll start with what we have. Again, it's all based on our algorithms and our AI by using this data. The process starts with getting folks to take a questionnaire survey, some call it. It takes about 30 minutes. And it gives what we call, and kind of we own the IP, the intellectual property, a Prism portrait, a Prism, right? And that's measured in 7 different modules. Personality under pressure, motivation, fundamental needs, decision-making, conflict management, and processing, how you process information. So 7 really important modules that help, get an understanding of the way you tick, your makeup, your method of operation of those around you, right? That Prism portrait, we go through third-party validity. So it's not us, in our garages or in our room, kind of just say, hey, this is great. We go through third-party validity and reliability every other year by a company out of the UK. So we've got scientific, kind of validation for this. It's valid from a 9th grade education level and above. So, it's applicable to, obviously the high school student athletes, college student athletes, and, some of from the folks that are listening in or watching this. There's 47 different nationalities and demographics. We do have a Spanish version of it. We do have other languages that are coming on board, but we do have it in English and Spanish. So it's certainly applicable to all the folks that are kind of listening here or watching it on this. So what do you do with that, right? What do you do? Now you get somebody, they take 30 minutes or so, they go through, they fill it out. And now we've got this Prism portrait. We've got these kind of 7 different modules. And, this is shown graphically. There's a graphic representation of each of those different modules. And as you kind of click through it, if you've got the opportunity to watch this on YouTube, you can click through and see it. I'm going through personality, right? Personality under pressure. We found about 50% of the population shifts under pressure in terms of the way they present themselves, their personality. Processing, how do you take information? How are you energized by information coming in? Decision making, right? Are you outward? Are you inward? Are you rapid? Or are you careful in your decision-making process? Conflict management, are you collaborating or accommodating, compromising? Do you avoid or you compete? Motivation, we've got a couple different segments here. The why, right? Or the how. Are you more motivated by attainment of goals or recognition for efforts? Are you more power or compliant? Activity versus affiliation. Is it all about who you're with, the affiliation, or what you're doing, right? In terms of motivation. And then the fundamental needs, right? This is broken into 3 areas: control, security, and significance. And where do those fly? I mean, this is fundamental needs kind of drive, a lot of this and who you are. So, understanding this, number one, about yourself is very important. And our platform is full of content. There's video content, audio content, there's articles that's kind of generated and populated by your Prism profile, your Prism portrait, right? Who you are. So you can start to understand what all of this means in each of those modules. We also offer kind of this roadmap to self-mastery. It's kind of a 24-step process that an individual can go through, called Prism Insights for Action. And you kind of just go through and understand, you take that deep dive into what's this data mean? How is this affecting other people in general? What can I do? What are some, if I've got some blind spots, how do I adjust that? What do I take a look at? The one thing to remember about the Prism portrait, we're not measuring good or bad or right or wrong or waving red flags. None of that. This is just who a person is, what makes, how do they line on, are they careful when they make a decision or rapid? Are they more, from a personality standpoint, are they relational as opposed to kind of mission oriented, right? Are they power as opposed to adaptable, who's a one-on-one kind of loyalist as opposed to kind of a leader standing in front of everybody? Nothing right or wrong about any of that. That's just who they are. So now this first step is getting people on the platform, understand, in cases of student athletes, a lot of times, we're not giving them the ability to kind of go, dig into this, right? We just help them kind of understand a little bit from a Prism platform standpoint. But if you're inclined, somebody on staff or a coach, or even want your student athletes, they can take this journey. It's part of the platform. It lives there live, right? What do you do with that in terms of the relationship stuff? So we've got a couple tools that help there. One is, in this next step, here's the one-on-one, right? In terms of lining two people up side by side and giving them really direct coaching counsel in terms of building that relationship and that connectivity. So I'll use myself and one of our board members, our advisory board members, which are baseball fans. It's Andre Dawson, a Hall of Famer, former Expo and Cub. So when you look at this, now you can look at this graphically, right? You can line Andre and myself up side by side and look at what that looks like graphically in terms of, how we may align or have some areas we may butt heads or where we're completely different. But more importantly, we've got what we call coaching communication. And when you see this in a video format, you can see this where we line people up side by side. So it'll give me direct communication counsel when I'm interacting with Andre, right? So Sean should make an effort to, or Sean should avoid. Conversely, what Andre should make an effort to, or what Andre should avoid. And that'll shift. Neither of us shift under pressure, but if we shifted under pressure, that directive would change. So this is that quick hit, that quick understanding. If somebody's new, or you've got a whole roster of folks, you got a football team of, 80, 75 kids, or you've got a large staff, and you're just trying to create connectivity with people, and you don't have the bandwidth or the time to kind of dig in and have those deep dives, individually with them, but this helps you immediately. So new people coming in, there's an impasse, you've got this quick hit right away, and it's really powerful. Gives you that extra step of helping you communicate, helping you put people in the best position that they're comfortable in based on your personality and your motivation, your overall Prism portrait and theirs. Really powerful one-on-one tool. So we've got the individual journey. Now we've got the one-on-one tool. And then we've got what we call Team Advisor, which is 3 or more, right? That's when you get into a group, whether it's a staff, like I said before, it's the administrative staff or coaching staff or a roster of a team, whatever group it may be. You go to Team Advisor. It does the same type of thing. I'll use a group here for those who are watching this on video with our advisors, one of which was Andre, who we just showed. But we've got a group here of, I got 7 people on this one. So, it's, again, just like Relationship Advisor, it shows this graphically by module. So you can kind of go through each of the different modules, personality and processing, from a graphic representation standpoint, and start to, once you kind of become adept at reading this, you can kind of identify or start to identify, areas where you may be lacking. You've got a lot of powers here. We don't have a lot of relational people. How's that going to play itself out? But just like Relationship Advisor, we can click over and we'll give you a report. We call it traits. And you can view the report in each of the different modules. It gives you some insight on what to do here. So it gives you the strengths of that particular group, potential liabilities of that group, what you should watch out for, and then advice and strategies on that group. This helps you, again, start to build that chemistry and starts to build that culture to hopefully help you become a high-performing team culture, high-performing organizational or successful culture. Again, all based on this data. And our overall kind of philosophy here is data to insights to action, and it's ever evolving because people are coming and going, rosters are changing, staff comes in and out. So this lives in real time, and you can go in and get these quick hits. Now we've got a lot of other tools on here, one of which is a survey tool we call the Pulse Survey, which is an on-demand anonymous survey that you can send out at any time off the platform. We have some questions that we build that are geared towards the data that we've collected, but it helps us kind of have checkpoints along the way. Or if there's just one question that happened, something happened at campus or at the school, or something happened in the community, and you want to get a quick read or a quick pulse on how that affects your staff or your student athletes, you can use our survey tool. And we can correlate that data or the responses, what we're hearing from those groups, back to the data that we have, and give real prescriptive recommendations or prescriptions on how to react to what's just happened. So, this data helps us become real kind of predictive in nature of what's going to happen, and then real prescriptive in terms of recommendations on how to react to that and put things back on the right course if they've gone off track. And then we got a lot more, like we dig into the weeds with spectrum analytics. We have 360 reports and things, but I'll put a pin in it right there and stop, because I know I can keep going. So.
Yeah, it was great because I could see what was going on, but I think you also did a really good job of articulating that for our listeners. This is, that next level stuff that the pros are doing, that colleges are doing. I know you've got some, some big name clients too. And I think for the high school AD and the high school coach that becomes the early adopters of this, and I know there's some already out there, they're really going to see that difference because the stuff, it works. It's that mental health, that mental performance component that so often coaches want to do, but they just never get around to doing. Sean, if one of our listeners wants to get a hold of you, and I certainly hope they do follow up on this, what's the website and how can maybe they reach out to you personally to find out more?
Yeah, you can go to sureathlete.com or surepeople.com. They're two different sites right now, but you can go to our website or just send an email to me. It's simple. It's Sean@surepeople.com, SEAN at surepeople, SURE people.com. And, happy to have a chat and kind of talk it through. So pretty simple to get hold of. I'm on LinkedIn too, so you can find me there as well.
There you go. All right. We're going to be back with some more. Sean Flynn from Sure People. This is the Educational AD Podcast. The data. We want to say thanks to Wall of Fame by Vital Signs. They're on a mission to bring your school's legacy to life. They provide a variety of interactive touchscreen video consoles and an extensive library of templates to make it easier than ever to recognize the athletic achievements of your students, both past and present. For ideas on how to showcase your school's diverse history, along with your proudest moments, go to vitalsignswalloffame.com or learn more and get started with your digital Wall of Fame tribute. Call them at 614-981-3589, or you can email them at sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. That's sales@vitalsignswalloffame.com. Welcome back, everyone. We're visiting with Sean Flynn from Sure People. Sean, one of the questions we've been asking our ADs recently has to do with this idea of coaching toughness. 100 years ago, when I was in high school, my coaches would say things like, come on, guys, you got to be tough, or, come on, Jake, you got to suck it up. And we knew what they meant. Over the years, I think we've gotten better, and we found better ways to communicate those ideas, to our student athletes. But toughness is a very important part of athletics and an important part of life. So my question to you is, how can an athletic director or coach help a kid these days to develop toughness while also being aware of and sensitive to the very real social emotional challenges that a Generation Z kid is experiencing? You have any advice for us?
Yeah, as you were saying that your old coaches, I referenced a good experience with a coach earlier. I could probably reference a couple bad experiences where a lot of butting heads, and certainly didn't recognize me or how I would react to things as his way or the highway, right? So as I think about that, there's got to be, there is some toughness that needs to be development, but everybody needs to be developed, right? But everybody does that in their own way or a different way. And that's the one thing our platform does, is help identify what that is. I always use the term, I won't say it as colorfully as I usually say it, but somebody needs a kick in the behind, or somebody else may need a hug, right? Your ultimate goal is to get them to where they need to be. But the person who needs a kick in the behind, if you're hugging them, that's not going to work. They're going to be like, what's going on? And they'll not react. They have a negative reaction. Or certainly if somebody who needs a hug, you're kicking them in the behind, that's not working. And that's even more evident in today with this generation, right, of student athletes that are in high school or in college now. They're more open and or they need and want kind of this individualized and appropriate interaction and relationship with those around them. So it goes back to, again, the three people that had a positive effect on me. They kind of intuitively figured out how Sean works, right? And let's communicate and interact with Sean in the best way that he'll accept that. So ultimately leading me, Sean, here's where you need to get to. You need to have this resilience and toughness and to survive, especially in athletics. But there's different ways to do that, and there's different approaches. So when you look at the best of the best in terms of coaching and building people up and putting them in the best position to succeed and preparing them for competition, a guy like Phil Jackson, he had all these individuals, from a Jordan to a Robinson to a Pippen to a Kukoc, and this collection of people that are completely different. Intuitively, he figured out how to individualize his communication with each of them. It wasn't a one way, my way or the highway, or one system. It was Rodman needs this, Jordan needs this, Pippen needs this, Bill Whittington needs this, and that's the success, right? And so, as we're thinking about interacting with a lot of folks, high school student athletes and athletic departments at the high school level, you've got to think about the individual, the old my way or the highway, or I'm going to coach the way I was coached, or I'm going to lead the way that I want to be led. That's not universally accepted. And that's, I'll go back to my buddy Nico, who founded all this, and he brings up a story all the time. When in one of his early businesses, he's starting out and he had a group of people, and as a visionary, he's got this plan. He's got 10 people in the room. Three of them are like, yeah, they're listening to this impassioned speech about rah, rah. He's like up here in personality. Four people in the middle are like, that sounds pretty good. They're kind of nodding their head. And then the three over there are like, and he's walked away thinking, what's wrong with these people? These three people are idiots. They need to get out of here. These four need some work, and these three are superstars. Now he's realized, and that's why he kind of fell in love with what we do, and why I have as well. Like, you know what? They're probably all great. It wasn't them. It was you. And you kind of need to figure that out. All right. So even without a tool like ours, you got to spend a little bit of time. I know there's, small bandwidths, but try to think in those perspectives that it's not only your way and the way you think that you may want to be led or coached, or the way you were coached. It's, you got to mix who you are with the folks around you. So and that ultimately leads to putting them in this position of having this resilience and toughness to kind of advance and succeed.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It just comes down to, the communication, getting to know your athletes as students, as people. I know, by the way, they're also athletes. And I think it just underscores, the value of the program that you guys are sharing through Sure People. Very neat stuff. Sean, this has been really cool, visiting with you again, getting to know a little bit more about you and the program, but we're not done yet. We always like to wrap up with what we call the athletic director's toolbox. You certainly had a wide variety of experiences in the athletic world. But in just a minute, I'm going to ask you to send out a brand new athletic director on their very first job. But I'm only going to let you put three things in their toolbox. And our AD Toolbox segment is sponsored by Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack. We're going to take a quick break and hear from Athletic Surveys. But when we come back, we're going to find out what Sean Flynn is going to put in his athletic director toolbox. Please stay with us. We want to thank Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack for sponsoring the AD Toolbox segment of our podcast. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack are a quick, easy, and affordable way for you to collect comprehensive data that allows you to evaluate and improve your athletic program. Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack also connects you with the 95% of the parents and the players who really love your program. And it gives them a voice to help demonstrate the importance that a positive athletic experience has for them. Go to athleticsurveys.com and check out their testimonials, and then give them a call at 1-800-738-6466, or you can email them at info@athleticsurveys.com to get started. If you've never used a survey to take the pulse of your parents or your student athletes, you're really missing out. Go to Athletic Surveys by Lifetrack and let them show you how to take your athletic program from good to great. Welcome back, everyone. Once again, we've been visiting with Sean Flynn from True People. Sean, what would you put into a brand new athletic director's toolbox to help them do the very best job they could?
Yeah, I'm going to take an approach of kind of what their skill set should be, right? What they need to kind of bring to the table with them. And I always start number one is creativity. And that's just not creativity and how to come up with the, to be able to draw or come up with a story. Creativity in general, which is a problem solving, right? It helps you problem solve. It helps you be proactive. It helps you, think about what's next. So creativity is number one on my list. And I always use that with anybody. If anybody brings that to the table, I'd say, listen, if you can show creativity, no matter what field you're in or what you're doing in life, creativity is going to give you the kind of ability to think your way through things. You think of what may be coming up ahead and think of ways to work through things that may pop up that you never even had an idea were there. So creativity, number one. Number two is resilience, right? I mean, there's all kinds of issues that happen constantly. Resilience is a powerful, powerful tool and a powerful skill to have, especially in the world of athletics and in high school in general, right? I mean, there's so many things that happen in the world in the day to day, long term, over the year, over a career. The ability to bounce back and forge ahead is powerful. And the third one is the ability to listen. A lot of times people are excited and they want to tell you how much they know and how much they figured out and the plan they've got, especially somebody who's creative. But listen, stop, gather information, hear folks out, whether, as an athletic director, whether it's a student athlete that's come to you and they've got a problem, or a coach that's come to you because he's got a problem with administration, or administrative has come to you because they got a problem with coaches or student athletes. Listen, hear everyone out, and then use your creativity and your resilience to find a pathway forward, right? And then, of course, you have to have, Sure People Sports as your fourth item in that toolbox to help you do all the stuff above. So I think that's probably a good starting point for folks.
All great tools. Resiliency is one of my favorite words. I'm a longtime track coach, and we always talk about the resiliency of, the muscle, the limb, the joint on impact, long jump, triple jump, et cetera, resiliency, that ability to recover. Great stuff. You mentioned Sure People. Once again, if one of our listeners wanted to reach out and pick your brain, find out a little bit more about the program, what's the website again, and what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Yeah, you go to sureathlete.com. There's actually a contact page on there. You can go to surepeople.com or Sean, SEAN, at surepeople.com. So feel free to reach out, or LinkedIn. You can find me on there and send a message as well.
Okay. Sean Flynn, Sure People, thanks so much for being on the podcast, and all the best moving forward.
Yeah, appreciate the time. Thanks, Jake.
For listeners, remember the Zoom recordings of all of our interviews get uploaded to the Educational AD Podcast YouTube channel. We appreciate you listening today. Come back again just about every single day for new content on the Educational AD Podcast. We also want to thank Hometown Ticketing for their support. Hometown Ticketing is the leading digital ticketing provider to schools and colleges. You can find out more about what Hometown Ticketing can do for you and your program by going to hometownticketing.com. Hometown Ticketing, simple and easy online ticketing.